The Xbox mobile store, it's delayed again. Xbox has been trying to launch a mobile store realistically since July. At least that's when they initially announced that you could start buying stuff outside of the standardized stores that are on your mobile device. However, here we are in nearly December and it is not available yet. And unfortunately, it's not going to be coming anytime soon. Through various mechanisms of the courts, both Apple and Google have been able to delay Microsoft been releasing this stuff. And so we got some more information today, as this stuff typically does. It is spilling over into social media and doing sort of that crowdsourcing campaigning, if you will. So we got this message this week from Sarah Bond. It says, at Xbox, we want to offer players more choice on how and where they will play, including being able to play and buy games directly from the Xbox app. I recently shared our ambitions to unlock these features first with the Google Play Store on Android devices in the US, while other app stores adapt to meet consumer demand. Due to a temporary administrative stay recently granted by the courts, we are currently unable to launch these features as planned. Our team has the functionality built and ready to go live as soon as the courts make a final decision. We are eager to launch and give more choice and more flexibility to the players. Now, there's a lot to digest there, because it's like Microsoft saying, look, we're ready to go. Now, I do question when Microsoft says they're ready to go, like, what are they actually going to allow you to do and how seamless is it going to be? I mean, we've seen Microsoft sort of stumble out of the gate in the past, and I hope that this does not happen again for the company. However, Google, for their part, is saying, like, look, you can do that today. Google issued a rebuttal, if you will, to The Verge, where they are pushing back on exactly what Microsoft is trying to do at the end of the day. They says Microsoft has always been able to offer their Android users the ability to play and purchase Xbox games directly from their app. They've simply chosen not to. The court's orders and rush to force its implementation threaten Google Play's ability to provide a safe and secure experience. Microsoft, like Epic, are ignoring these very real security concerns. We remain focused on supporting an ecosystem that works for everyone, not just for the two largest game companies. Now, that's an interesting rebuttal, because that's basically been their argument the entire time through the courts. It's like, look, if we can't offer a curated experience through the Android store or the Google Play Store, then viruses, malware, and all that other stuff could happen and sneak in. And that's basically the same argument that Apple has been making as well. It's like, we built these platforms to be this way. Opening them up is bad for the industry. Where you stand on that is kind of dependent on where you also stand on things like app stores on Mac OS and on Windows. Remember, Microsoft did try to launch a store on Windows. It's still there. It's the Microsoft Store, but it is not anything close to what Google or Apple are able to do. Granted, I bet if they could have gotten away with it, Microsoft absolutely would have been able or have done the exact same thing, pushing all the other competitors out. Now, if there's one person who has become the face of this court battle, it is Tim Sweeney. And you know, I don't always agree with everything that Tim says and does, but you know what? He's put his own company and his own money on the line to really try to disrupt these monopolies as he views them. And I think most people tend to agree, at least in some respects. And so, yeah, he blasted back what Google was saying. He's like, Google's statement is deceitful. Shame on them. They know that 30% cut demand is far more than all the profit from the game streaming. And they know this because they blew hundreds of millions of dollars on building failed Stadia and game businesses themselves. Now, yeah, you can dissect that many different ways, but absolutely Tim has been, Fortnite was sort of the salvo that got a lot of this started, and there's no arguing that, and you have to respect that companies who are willing to put their own bottom line on the line, if you will, to take on these tech juggernauts. So that is where the Xbox Store is at. Now, there's a couple things you can take away from this. I absolutely do believe that Xbox will launch a mobile store. I believe that they will try to go full force into this. They were actually hoping to have it live, I think potentially even before July. But here we are into December, and they can't do the thing that was on the roadmap that was supposed to help drive Game Pass, supposed to help drive revenue, and supposed to give them more opportunity. Because as Tim Sweeney points out, 30% cut on this stuff doesn't make sense for a company like Microsoft, or really any company. 30% is a huge slice of the pie when margins are typically slim. And so when you're building these things and saying like, look, if I want to sell it here, and this is the argument that has been made, 30% no longer makes sense in this day and age because the costs are not there. They're shared equally among everyone, and 30% is a lot. But anyways, I do believe that Xbox will get its store on both Google and Apple, but the courts are being used to do what the courts like to do, to delay things. Now, Google and Apple are not forging any roads through the snow here. Every company uses the courts to delay things, right? That is their legal right to be able to do this. However, when you're on the inverse side of it, it kind of sucks. And Microsoft, for once, I shouldn't say for once, but for one of the rare times in its history, finds itself on the other end of the legal battle where companies are delaying things intentionally so that they can't launch product in a way that they feel suited. Now, granted, Google is obviously well within their right. Same with Apple. They can do this. That's why the courts exist, right? Court rulings aren't always perfect. And so these reversals and delays and things are to be expected. We hear about them all the time. The wheels of justice move incredibly slow. And you can always imagine how frustrating that is at the end of the day. So, yeah, Google and Apple are both, they're bedfellows here, and there's no denying that. The question is realistically going to become is when is the Xbox Store going to get onto these devices? And the question that I ask then is, assuming, which is a bad thing to do, assuming that Microsoft can get its stores up and running, how good of experience is it going to be? Because here's the thing, they will always be second-class citizens on these platforms, right? No matter what they do, they don't own Android or Apple or iOS for that matter. And so they will always be second-class citizens, and do not expect Google and Apple to go out of their way to promote these stores, right? They are going to be hidden. They are going to be harder. Apple could do dumb things, or Google, I should say, since that one's more closer. What if when you add that icon, it just doesn't show up in searching, right? Like, they can do dumb stuff like that. Now, they could be called out for that and maybe like pointed, but that's probably an extreme example. But you get what I mean. They don't have to be like, oh, we love the Xbox Store on our thing, let's make it a first class experience. Like, they could do dumb stuff that is going to downplay that. I expect Apple to be more on that side potentially than Google, because Apple already does some shenanigans over in the EU. They literally take things to the letter of the law, which again is within their right, but they're being called out and they're probably going to get fined here. But the reality is the fines are typically less than the money that they make, because 30% of a transaction, or every single transaction, is rather significant. So anyways, the mobile store has been delayed, not through the fault, at least this time, of Xbox. And so as this stuff continues to bounce its way through courts, we don't really know when this is gonna launch, because again, it's already been delayed. We don't know what the next ruling will be because of the delay. And so it could be delayed further, and we could be at the end of 2025, in worst case scenario, still talking about this. Hopefully Xbox can get it launched. It is not their own issues here for once, I should say. And so they are waiting on Google and Android, or Apple, I keep saying Android for Apple, to do the thing that they're supposed to be doing. So anyways, if you want to stay updated on everything happening in the world of Xbox and beyond, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the BS on this channel is me.